Hey guys, welcome to the Fight Tonight channel. He called me out. Conor Benn rips Terence Crawford's trainer over potential Gervonta Davis fight comment. Hearn, the head of Matchroom Boxing, has set his sights on elevating Conor Benn's profile in America. He has recently worked on it as well by pitting him against Gervonta Davis, a prominent figure in American boxing. Following Benn's victory over Peter Dobson in Las Vegas, critics voiced their disappointment over the lack of a knocking out against the lesser-known opponent. Still, Hearn recognized Benn as the most wanted fighter in America. Moreover, among those critics, even Gervonta Davis slammed Benn for not being able to knock out his opponent, and stated he could knock Benn out if they ever stepped inside the ring. As a result, Benn also engaged in a bit of trash talking. However, this wasn't appreciated by the boxing trainer Brian Mcintyre. McIntyre's comments on the recent developments urged Benn to come up with a swift response, harking back to the former's jail sentencing last year. Conor Benn will never back down from verbal warfare. As the verbal sparring between Conor Benn and Gervonta Davis unfolded, Hearn started planning for a prospect of a showdown between the two fighters. Amidst the potential excitement for fans, Brian McIntyre, however, did not share the enthusiasm. From McIntyre's perspective, the idea of a significantly larger boxer positioning himself against a smaller opponent, like Davis, raises concerns. McIntyre advocates for fairness, urging Benn to set his sights on opponents his own size if he genuinely desires a formidable challenge. He said, "Why would he go down there and pick on guys at 35 and 40? Why don't you mess with those guys at 47 and 54? Call those guys out." Looking at the statement, Benn posted his reasons on his social media. He wrote, "He called me out. You concentrate on getting throats, customs big fella." Moreover, Benn has tried to call out an opponent at 147 and 54 weight classes ahead of his fight against Dobson. He stated that he could always try to convince Terence Crawford to fight him, as he wants to test his skills against the best. Benn is open to take on Terence Crawford. In the bustling welterweight division, Terence Crawford, who is considered the top dog, is quite close to the end of his career. Despite Crawford's admission of limited time in the ring, a dream bout against Canelo Alvarez remains elusive, and Conor Benn Wall's respectful approach sets him apart. Eschewing flashy trash talk, Benn sought to test his skills against Crawford for the welterweight maestro. He believed it could be a great opportunity for him if he could make up the fight against Bud, for whom he has got nothing but immense respect. Benn told, "We could make the Crawford fight next. You want to challenge yourself against the best." So he has called out the guys of his own size. However, Benn has shown cases that he won't be sitting silently if a boxer is calling him out for a fight, no matter if he is from a lower weight class. What are your thoughts about this? Tell us in the comment section. I can see an opportunity to make it. Hearn shares major update on Gervonta Davis vs Conor Benn fight. Hearn was recently interviewed, where he shared a massive update on the potential clash between Benn and Tank. He said, "We've been running the numbers with the zone over the last couple of days, and today I will be presenting an offer to Gervonta Davis. No doubt it will appear on your social media later when he screenshots it. If he chooses to do that, it's fine, but I want to try and make the fight. I'm not gonna tell you what the offer is and call him out on it. I want to talk privately. I want to make the fight. I appreciate it's not the Ryan Garcia fight, but it's still a lot of money for the fight. I think he thinks is an easy and nice work. I'm not saying the fight's gonna happen, but I can see an opportunity to make it," Hearn said. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel.